If you're just joining us now, CNN has just confirmed 13 Israeli soldiers killed in an ambush in Gaza. These soldiers from the Golani Brigade, one of the most highly decorated Israeli brigades. We're also hearing of dozens other soldiers wounded in this operation. So far, Israeli forces not confirming details, but we have our own Wolf Blitzer on the ground in Tel Aviv. Wolf, what are you hearing about what led to these deaths of Israeli soldiers?
Well, I just did speak with the chief spokesman for the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, and he did confirm 13 Israeli soldiers confirmed dead. The families have now been notified. That's why they've released this number. And he also confirms that dozens of Israeli soldiers have been injured, have been wounded in the most recent clashes. And as you're right, this is an elite Israeli brigade, the Golani Brigade, going into Gaza. It's very, very close quarters. They're not releasing yet the specific details of what happened, other than it was some sort of clash, some sort of ambush. They're suggesting, but it will create an incentive here in Israel, at least on the right. The Israelis will say you got to go in there in bigger numbers and just get the job done. On the left, they'll say this is a quagmire. This was never going to happen. Israel should not get thrust into this kind of arm-to-arm conflict, if you will. They'll encourage the Israelis to start pulling out. 13 may not sound like a huge number, but in a relatively small country like Israel, this is a significant number of Israeli military deaths. Remember, it follows 5 earlier deaths of Israeli soldiers. So in terms of the military deaths in Israel, it's up to 18 right now. And as I say, if you watch Israel television, if you see the Israeli media, they immediately put the names, the hometowns, the ages, the pictures of these young Israeli soldiers who are killed, and that puts enormous pressure one way or another on the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make some major decisions. The effort is underway. We know behind the scenes to try to revive that ceasefire. Jim, the Egyptians are working hard at it. Turkey is involved. Qatar is involved. The U.S. is involved. Everyone anticipates the Secretary of State, John Kerry, will be here in the region in the next few days, probably going to Egypt first, then heading over to Israel, some of the other countries as well. But it's a brutal, brutal situation. And as painful as it may be for the Israelis right now, you take a look at what's going on for the Palestinians in Gaza. It's a whole lot worse. So many Palestinian civilians, whether young people, children, elderly, have died already. Many more have been injured. The Israelis say they're going after the military targets, the leadership, the terrorists, if you will. But inevitably, given that concentration of people there, a lot of civilians are going to die in the process as well. So this is a very ugly situation that's developing by all accounts, Jim, right now.
And just to remind our viewers, in Israel, virtually everyone serves at a time in the armed forces. So when something like this happens, people are connected to the sacrifice that the soldiers make. The Hamas is claiming, and again, you always have to take this with a grain of salt, but Hamas is claiming that they lured Israeli tanks into a field where there were IEDs. And I just remember covering the 2006 war against Lebanon, that Israeli tanks took a heavy toll there in urban combat. And I just wonder, the risk that this must have been to bring tanks again into a very urban situation in Gaza.
Yeah, it's a real risk. And the Israelis have said to me, Israeli military planners have said to me over the past few days, and I've been here now for 11 days, they've said they're fully aware that Hamas has been bracing for this kind of Israeli ground assault for a long time, and they prepared all sorts of ways to try to deal with it. So they were pretty aware that the Hamas has some pretty sophisticated capabilities. They went in with their eyes open, but at the same time, you can see Israeli military suffering some significant casualties right now. It's going to have an impact on the political situation. I'm already hearing some suggestions, by the way, some reports. People are sad. Obviously, in Israel, weddings are already being canceled. All sorts of other activities are being canceled. Today, earlier, there was supposed to be a concert in the next few days. Backstreet Boys were coming here to Israel. That's now been canceled. So this country is at a real sensitive moment right now, and a lot of pressure on the government, the cabinet, the prime minister to do what some people say get even tougher. Other people say get out of there. It's a tenuous situation. I'll put it like that.
And one they've been through before. 2006, the Lebanon War, 2009 in Gaza, 2012, now 2014. It is great to have Wolf Blitzer there. And just reminding our viewers, if you missed it, CNN just confirming the 13 Israeli soldiers killed in an operation overnight in Gaza, dozens more wounded. We'll have more details on that story. And, of course, the other story we're following very closely, the latest in the investigation on the crash of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 over eastern Ukraine. Please stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.